Avengers Endgame is a comic book superhero movie directed by the Russo brothers, and it stars Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, Scarlett Johansson, and a bunch of other famous actors. Before I go on with the review, I'm sorry I don't have a webcam or any camera so I can show you my hideous face, so it'll mostly just be pictures and stuff, so you can actually just leave your phone or something by the side and just listen to the review, and that'd be great, okay? Sorry once again, but without further ado, let's move on with the review. Now I've got to start by saying that I thought this movie was a little disappointing. Yes, I know, but hear me out. I will go over the positives and what I did like about the movie first before I go over the negatives. The movie had a great start, with a strong and proper establishment of the state of affairs, with a comprehensive showing of what all the Avengers are up to and how the world reacted to the decimation in the previous movie, Infinity War. It really sells you on how dreary things are through the shots and various expressions from the Avengers. In terms of pacing, it was decent from start to finish, with action sprinkled in from time to time. You'll never truly be bored. The fight choreography was great, so in terms of action at least, the movie will definitely satisfy you, with almost all of the core characters having their chance to shine and show how badass they are. Captain America takes center stage here, unlike Infinity War, and a lot of emphasis is placed on him in particular, with Iron Man being probably the second most prominently featured Avenger. As for the rest, Ant-Man gets the screen time he deserves, which is great because I love Paul Rudd's Ant-Man and he's a super integral part of the story and he's very important. Hawkeye and Black Widow get a pretty sizable chunk of screen time and a pretty emotional scene, and the rest like Nebula and Rocket do show up quite a bit, so fans of those characters will definitely be satisfied. Hawkeye in particular was amazing in this movie. He has quite an emotional arc and he finally feels like he's an actual part of the team. He didn't really, strike a chord with me in the previous movies, so this movie did Hawkeye justice. This movie, however, didn't do Hulk and Thor justice. I thought Hulk's character arc was interesting, but Thor was treated with quite a bit of disrespect. The movie also has a ton of callbacks and references to prior MCU films, which were nice. Some of them really put a smile on my face. The movie had a lot of heartfelt moments and payoffs that were justified, and my eyes were glued to the screen the entire time, although I must say I wasn't crying as much as 1,000 of the other reviewers are saying. Now don't get me wrong, a lot of moments really tugged at the heartstrings and induced a sense of awe and sadness, but none of them were real tearjerkers in my opinion. Although I almost teared up at one scene, I have to admit, but I was definitely not crying 5 to 6 times like a lot of reviewers or Chris Evans is saying on Twitter. Like, come on guys, really? How? Like, really? I don't believe you. Aside from that, there were also a few comic book references that even the die-hard Marvel fans should appreciate here. And the continuity was also kept relatively in check despite the significant story beats and elements. The movie also had a great balance in comedic and serious tones. It was a pretty great blend, and speaking of comedy, there were quite a few moments when I burst out in laughter in this movie. I thought the comedy here was solid and not too invasive like Thor Ragnarok, and you'll find that a lot of the jokes come from Hulk and Thor in particular, even though I'm quite sad that Thor is treated like a joke in this movie. There were also a few cheer-worthy moments on the level of Thor's arrival in Wakanda from Infinity War, but for me that Infinity War scene was still the only scene where I admit I cheered along with my fellow moviegoers. I was pretty silent in Endgame, aside from the laughter of course. Cinematography was fantastic, scenes were shot beautifully, and acting for most of the actors was stellar, and the plot was relatively strong and engaging throughout the first and second act, despite a few convenient leaps in logic here and there. The third act and weak performances by some of the actors, however, is where the movie falters. The final act was laced with 1 or 2 ham-fisted scenes and suffered from being a bit too fast-paced. The Avengers themselves don't face too many challenges until the last few moments, and some of their issues are solved way too easily. They played it a little too safe with this one, and the movie itself was filled with a few plot holes, and like I said before, very convenient leaps in logic with some things that shouldn't have been done. For instance, nerfing and making a fool out of some characters to prop up others. The movie wraps up with a conclusion that was a little unsatisfying. As an ending to the Infinity Saga that started way back in 2008, I honestly expected more. In my opinion, the third act was a little on the weaker side, and overall it really couldn't replicate the sense of urgency that was apparent in Infinity War, which is odd since the stakes are about on the same level and the villain is once again Thanos. Thanos, however, didn't feel like that much of a threat here. The conclusion, however, is a massive eye-popping spectacle to behold, which was filled to the brim with action that fans will definitely love. There were many awesome moments and nods to the comic books here and there, and those who've kept up with the series thus far will definitely be rewarded for being loyal to the MCU. I just think they could have cut down on the fan service and stick the landing a little better. Avengers Endgame was a Herculean task. It had to wrap up the story of a two-part arc that started in Infinity War, while also giving satisfying endings to the core characters, while also somewhat setting up the future of the MCU, and I understand the difficulty of the task. However, I simply can't give this a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10 because it just isn't that good. Best I can give Avengers Endgame is an 8 out of 10. And I almost decided to go for a 7 or 7.5, but I thought about it really hard, and that's the score I'm going for, because for what the Russo brothers have done here, they really deserve at least an 8. It's still a must watch for MCU fans, and while the movie does leave me a lot less hyped for the future of the MCU, I'll still drop by from time to time to see how things are going, and to see how the new saga unfolds. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you've enjoyed it thus far. Let's keep the comments civil, guys. I want to see your discussions. I want to see what you thought about Avengers Endgame. Leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Peace.